Bueno, pues aquí estamos de nuevo en The Stanley Parable. Si oís un sonidito de fondo, es Nuria pasando la aspiradora. Total, que comenzar la partida. Hay un final, que, como habéis comentado, que creo que es en la pasarela. Tengo que ir a la de al lado. Y hay como un final, no sé si me habéis comentado que hay un final de Minecraft. Y si hay un final de Minecraft, yo lo quiero ver. Creo recordar que es ese, no estoy muy segura, pero bueno, vamos a intentarlo. Que sea lo que Stanley quiera. Cuando quieras te loading, cuando quieras te loading, o voy yo a tu casa y te loading yo. Click to skip, por supuesto. Que te calles, no quiero escucharlo. No quiero escuchar tú.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Que te calles.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps
Cállate.
he had simply missed a memo.
Que te calles. En serio, cállate.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace
Who
of his
farted?
co-worker.
Who farted? ¿Quién se ha tirado un peo? Ay, ¿qué pone aquí? No lo puedo ver. Ahora los ordenadores, este juego es de los años 80. O sea, digamos que la época I hate Mondays. Porque estos ordenadores... ¿Este qué? Este no, este es el sacador de puntas. Tiene hasta una lámpara iluminando el sacador de puntas. Es el sacador de puntas profesional. Muy bien. Papeles tirados por aquí. ¿Puedo abrir esta puerta? No, no puedo. ¡Oh! Lo he apagado. He apagado el ordenador. ¿Puedo encenderlo? He be my Valentine. Hola, todas las tacitas son... Who farted. ¿Puedo entrar aquí? No. Hola, planta.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference.
Mega.
Nor did it advance the story in any way.
Bueno, pero tocaré lo que quiera, ¿no? A mí me gusta tocar. Bueno, vámonos por aquí. I hate Mondays. Parece que es una taza muy mainstream aquí en la oficina. Es algo típico. ¡Oh! ¡Oh! Café en el suelo. Eso me recuerda a ayer cuando tiré toda la jodida taza llena de café hasta arriba. Ay, qué dolorcillo. Además era la poca leche que me quedaba. Bueno, quiero entrar en la planta. Quiero tirarme por la ventana. ¿Puedo? Quiero sentarme. Quiero sentarme aquí y hacer como si esto fuera un tren. Entonces hacer las congas con las sillas. ¿Puedo? Quiero subirme aquí y bailar una jota. ¡Oh! Quiero ir por aquí. ¿No puedo? Estos son luces. Bueno, on his left, has dicho. On his left. Ah, quería ir a la plataforma. Vale, sí. Oli. Voy a clicarlo todo. En plan, a ver si se puede abrir. Oli.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer
Mondays. Pranking floors meeting. Pranking? What to do about 432? Don't tell 432 about the meeting. 432 somos nosotros. No lo sé. Not cost efficient. Get Chris out of the broom closet. ¿Qué coño? Pushy. No sé qué. Hire someone to synergist papers are too synergist. File paper guy. ¿En serio? Hire someone to file the papers to... Who moved my desk? Please get the target. ¡Qué bueno! Tomorrow. Complete today's unfinished agenda. Write next day's agenda. Reflect. The future was yesterday. Tomorrow is now. ¡Qué bueno! ¡Hostia! Uno tiene nombre. ¿Te has fijado? Todos son números menos Jim. ¿Quién es Jim? ¿G-I-M? ¿Qué es G-I-M? ¡Ah! ¡Gimnasia! Quarterly. If you ever find yourself in a conflict with another diligent employee like yourself... ¡Aquí hay una falta! ¡Aquí hay una falta! Me he pasado. Mierda. Bueno, da igual. Vámonos. Broom closet. A la mierda. Aquí ya he venido. ¡Ah, sí! ¡Ja! ¡No! No, voy a ir hacia abajo. Esto es lo que quería hacer. ¿Y esto aquí? Oli, 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 Firehouse.
But Stanley just couldn't do it.
No he
He
podido
considered the
hacerlo.
possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley.
A ver.
Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
Hola.
And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all.
Estaba soñando.
He thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Hola, hola, hola.
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical star field, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life.
Tío, me estoy rayando,
Now, hearing
¿vale?
the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently,
Ay,
and he invited himself to wake up.
me están dando
He felt
escalofríos y
the
todo.
cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Me da un poco de mal rollo, no es por nada, ¿eh? Hola. ¿Y ahora qué?
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real.
Hola, 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 hola.
My voice. Who am I?
Tengo miedo.
And everything went black.
Tengo miedo.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Hola.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Qué bueno. Qué bueno. Creo que es el final que más me ha gustado de todos los que hemos visto hasta ahora. Muy bien. Muy bien, muy bien. Vamos a dejarlo aquí. Vamos a intentar que cada gameplay sea un final distinto de Stanley Parable. Dejadme en los comentarios, por favor, qué otras posibilidades. ¿Cómo es para el final de Minecraft? ¿Qué tengo que hacer exactamente? Y lo haré. Y lo haré. Me está gustando mucho ese juego. Sé que a vosotros también. Y no sé, lo estoy disfrutando bastante. Así que espero que vosotros también. Le podéis dar a me gusta. Lo dicho, podéis dejar en los comentarios sugerencias de otros finales. Y nos vemos en la próxima. Chao.